Finding missing persons with Strava. Who thought it would be possible? Well, if you're any familiar with finding military bases using Strava, because people are using this app and using it as an open source way to show off what they are doing. Strava is amazing to find missing persons, especially if you took a course on search and rescue initial actions with us, or you already have some familiarity with Robert Kessler's work on how to do lost person behavior. If you haven't done that, I highly recommend doing that before or coming back later when you want to enjoy this video. Why is that so? Because it's highly important that I need you to understand what lost missing person profiles are out there before you start doing this, so you can get a clearer understanding of where you need to put your resources as a search manager, or where you can set your high probability areas for you to find your missing person. So why are we considering using Strava to find missing persons? Well, the first one, it's open source, accessible. So it means that everybody, as long as you can make an account, I'm not going to show you how to make an account. I assume if you're able to use technology and watching videos, you're able to make an account on Strava. Secondly, it is free. You can use this. You can use this and it's accessible. And third, it's highly used by multiple types of people, especially those who are active. So if you know somebody that is missing and you know that they are an active person, there is a high probability of chance that they are at least interacted with Strava or has somebody in their surroundings that is active with Strava. But it also allows you to look at something which we call heat maps. Heat maps basically show historical activity of other people that went to specific places and where they were at. Why is this important? Because if we want to find trails where somebody or other people have been heading to, or have been hiking, have been running, we can do exactly that. We can look in the areas that with the blue that's lighting up with the particular areas we call hotspots, heat spots. In this case, I have selected for all food sports. So if you are familiar with lost person behavior, you know that there are specific lost person behavior profiles out there, which allows them to find and select the behavior or how far somebody might be traveling, which indications and where they have been found in past. If you want to know more about that, feel free to leave a comment. And if you want to learn more of what we have been doing with MHAT's initial responder development on search and rescue, feel free to subscribe to this video because you're gonna learn a whole lot and it's gonna help us to make more content. Thank you for that. Another addition to why I think Strava is so highly useful for your initial actions or you're doing search planning for your missing persons, it's because it's got really, really good in-depth maps. And it has 3D maps, which allows you to zoom in on specific places and look at hills or mountains and also the directions where people might have been in the past. For example, if we start looking at this mountain over here and we have applied the heat map, you can actually see that people like to go and follow this ridge line over here. Well, they go up there. But if we zoom in more in depth, we can see that either these are GPS deviations, that basically the phone or the smartwatch, whatever it was using, the GPS went off the track and did not follow it. Or it might have been that somebody actually went off the track here and allowed them to, hold on, I need to adjust the map, and actually has made a mistake in the past, which made them to lead in a different direction. So for example, if we start zooming in on this specific spot here, we can see that people are moving on this trail or whatever. But if I just look at the satellite image, it might not show initially how much people travel this route. Well, we can see some paths are walking. We can see that most people that are doing all kinds of sporting activities as selected by the top filter. we are not able to. We see that not a lot of people, for some reason, go up these trails. At least those are doing sports activities, because that's where Strava is based around. Here is a massive thing that why I think Strava is so useful if you're doing open source intelligence and getting particular historical data to find your missing persons. Look at this. Apparently, somebody or something, maybe this is a house. I can't clearly see what it is, but somebody has been moving across this line, and it's a dead end. So if we have somebody who has gone missing off this trail, we want to send possibly hasty search teams to come to look at this specific area, because we have known that a person has in the past moved across this area. I want you to apply your lost person behavior profiles properly before you start implementing this. So, okay, let's assume that our missing person now is a hiker. So we'll go up into the filter of the heat map and we'll go out and looking for types of sports. Here's something to keep in mind. Runners and walkers and hikers are running walking sports. In my experience, all behave more or less like walking or hiking or running. Not the same. There's a differentiation between them, and there's a difference between them, absolutely. For example, somebody has been walking or hiking very likely has more equipment with them, or has the capability to carry more equipment with them. You don't see often runners with larger backpacks carrying more equipment, and usually are not equipped to deal with long-term commitments in wilderness environments. So definitely something to keep in mind. But for now, if you want to keep things simple, just use all sports activities, all foot sports activities, because we are looking for a hiker. And in this case, we have a major advantage because we can actually filter to which directions people that are hiking or doing foot sports activities are taking for some reason. For example, here, we see that the light blue here, in comparison to the white hot, which is the hot areas, is the more traveled route. Well, we have light blue areas is where people that are active from travel, but it's not a taken path that's much often. So these are people, for some reason, that are outdoor activities that have Strava installed, that are sharing their attendance within their social media, that is Strava. So if you all have a family member and you know that you ask on this person if this person is a very active one, ask if he is using Strava, because it might give you a extra information on their lost person behavior profile, and it gives you an idea of how they have behaved. With a little bit of luck, even, you are able to access their accounts in some particular times. But that's something you definitely should discuss with law enforcement before you start doing that, because we don't want to embarrass the sheriff. We want to embrace the sheriff instead, okay? Highly important. So what we can do now is, for example, we have an idea that our missing hiker has been walking on this ridge line. So what we can do is we can switch between the 3D and the 2D in the left down corner. And we can, example, switch between the hybrid maps, which I'm going to do now. It gives us a little bit of an idea of the behavior of the mapping software. And it will help us give us a better idea where our hiker might have been or has been going to. Just an idea for you, okay? Just go, if you really want to be specific, let's say somebody has actually been hiking and not been running. You can see that some of the deviations in like paths change or are less obvious. For example, what we can here see, which is really interesting to this particular mountain, is that we can see that there are a lot of people hiking up this area, but not a lot of people are actually using the path that is on the ridge line on the left. So a lot of people actually, they go up the right side, and then they also decide that they want to go back on the same site which they came from, which for us as search and rescue is really important information, because that means if we don't have information other than what we can go from, this is vital information to give an idea how normal people in decent circumstances without problems will behave. So in some circumstances, we might indeed be able to use these deviations. For example, here, for some particular reasons, there is a lot of deviation in here. So what I want to do now is, okay, I'm going to switch between the maps. I'm going to choose for a standard map and now look at some of the height reference. What is causing this? What might be causing this deviation? Might have been just satellite deformation and problems with connection with the satellite. That might be the option. Or is actually just a different hiking path that is leading somewhere. If you actually see those street lines up here, that for me is a clear indication that that line is so straight that is a satellite deviation. But if you start looking at some of these areas here, those eyes actually might be where people have decided to go off the path. For example, here, look at this one. It goes a little bit down and up, down and up. That might be an indication that we might be able to give some extra priority to that search segment over there if we are using this to find a missing person. So these are just some ideas which I can want for you to think, okay? We now are going to select by different segments. So we can go for unpaved and set done. And we can see if people are using the unpaved paths. Well, this is a mountain, so it's very likely unpaved. But for example, if you look into Cape Town, there are some paved paths going up the Table Mountain, which is important information if you really wanted to, because people tend to behave differently if you're walking on a paved area, if you're walking on a hiking, at least to my experience. If you really start analyzing yourself, very likely you watching this are a hiker, your mindset, it might be a little bit more different because it's more urban-ish, okay? If you are more experienced search managers that have a different opinion, feel free to add to the conversation because it's really important to do so. So, this is just Strava, okay? I want you to think of it. I want you to play with it. And I want you to come back to this video and share your details and interests, because I am also just starting off with using Strava to find missing persons. As just throwing ideas out there, because Strava is a really powerful open source intelligence tool to find missing persons, but also things like military bases. Things to consider and things to think about. Thank you so much. I know this was a quick video. I hope you're enjoying it. If you want to help us make on more content, feel free to subscribe and like and share your thoughts. And thank you so much. I'll see you for the next time for more search and rescue related content. See you. And this is search and rescue instructor Robin from Hansen Responsibly. Cheers.